My name is Jeff Wagnitz. I'm the co-liaison from the ESAT team to Rachel's campaign. My co-liaison partner is Krog Unsold, who's on my screen over off in the right hand in the middle, but at any rate, want to introduce him as my partner in crime here in supporting Rachel's campaign. I also want to welcome you all for being here, taking time out of the fallish, nice evening to spend a bit of time with Rachel, and also want to welcome Rachel herself and thank her for taking time to come back and spend a little additional time with us. I know that Rachel is a busy person, so the time she's carving out to visit with us is precious and much appreciated. The last time we were with Rachel, we were together, was June 4. Which was her town hall prior to the our endorsement of her, and we just thought it would be good to get back now that she is our official endorsee and the primary's over, and we're kind of getting into the crazy time in the run up to the general election. A chance to get to know her again, maybe a little bit more, and hear some updates. Refine our own messaging about what Rachel's doing so we can use that when we talk to people. And then we'll end up talking a bit about how we can best support her in her campaign. And so I just wanted to start off again by welcoming Rachel. And just to start us off, if you wanted to take a minute to reintroduce yourself or remind us a bit about your background and let us hear a bit about you, that'd be great. And then I'll ask you the first question.
The first thing I'll say is I'm a first-time candidate, I ended up in this. Well, I ended up putting my name in the hat to run for commissioner after serving as a chair of one of the local advisory boards here in Thurston County. I chair what's called Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee, which is the behavioral health. It's like the behavioral health funding that comes into Thurston County and then is redistributed out for treatment-related or court-related projects. And so I started getting involved there. But my background, as far as professional background goes, is I have worked in public service as a public administrator for over a decade. And I have a master's in public administration from the Evergreen State College. I'm also have my bachelor's from Evergreen State College, which is also where Larry Eggstead, who is on this call, was a founding faculty, and he is my father. And so Evergreen State College plays a big role in who I am and how I show up as a human. And so my background in public service has really been I let it take me where it led me. And I have really had quite a bit of experience in the health sector and the behavioral health sector, working at Department of Corrections, Labor and Industries. I've worked at Healthcare Authority. I was a rates manager for all of Washington State for a period of time. Hospital rates, I have worked, and then I've spent the majority of my career at Department of Social and Health Services. Most of the positions that I've taken either had a financial realm to them, but most all of them have been around strategic thinking and looking at the big picture and being handed something and saying, hey, Rachel, like for example, in my current role, they said, here's $5 million, go solve the workforce problem and behavioral health in King County. And I've taken that $5 million today. Now that was 19 months ago. And today I now have it was just me. I have a staff of 4 and now have a budget of $163 million because through a series of steps, I was able to use my financial brain and actually and take that into looking at what are the actual resources that King County needs in order to do a full-scale behavioral health workforce plan. And by talking to the community and bringing voices together, I was able to create that plan. And so that's mostly the kind of work that I've been doing. And so that's why I ended up, through this advisory committee, kind of seeing where there might be some areas within Thurston County, the commission, that I could really bring those skills to help and to really make some change in Thurston County. So that's me, in a nutshell. That I'm hoping to really bring some of those skills here. Another part of me that I will say in this opening is that the other major thing that I bring to the table is that first of all, I'm a mother of three. It and that is in itself of a 30-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 20-year-old. And when Madeline said earlier to me, she said, we really have to make sure that we're protecting environmental, our protections for the future of our families and our kids, but it goes around all of those issues, which is I'm consistently thinking about not only my father as a senior and my family in that realm, but also my children and what are we leaving behind? And so that's also a big part of who I am. And then that third little piece of me would be I bring a voice that has never been brought before to Thurston County and to local politics, which is the voice of of lived experience. And when we say that word in the behavioral health world, it means that I have experienced homelessness. I have experienced addiction. I have experienced navigating the resources such as Social Security because I was widowed. I've navigated, every child care subsidies and Pell Grants. I mean, my gosh, I'm an expert in Pell Grants. I have three kids and I have 3 degrees. So, and all of them are, graduates now of college, except for one who's on his way to graduate in a year or so. So anyway, that's who I am and how I show up. And with those things said, I think you can understand that I really do care about housing. I care about public safety. I care about behavioral health response, and I care about our environment. And I really care about fiscal transparency, because the one thing I didn't mention is I was the budget chief in various ways across, and a policy and finance subject matter expert for Washington State for a lot of years for Medicaid. And so I am always thinking about how do we organize our work and how do we bring analysis and data, qualitative and quantitative, to the table, and how do we bring that together to solve these bigger problems. And so that's me. I know that was a long me, but I don't think I've said all those things to this group yet.
No, that's great. Thank you. We do have a few questions that came in advance, and I will walk through those again for those of you who are joining us. Please feel free to put a question in the chat and we can add that to the list. But we wanted to start just a little bit asking you about how the campaign's going. What do you see that's going well? Kind of some pleasant, happy surprises, and this feels like momentum. And then the second kind of is a two-parter, of course. The second part is, what do you see as the kind of challenges, some surprises you've had that have come up that, give us a flavor of how the campaign's going.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I do think the campaign's going really well. I mean, as a first-time candidate, someone that had said, "Hey, have you thought about running?" I was like, I don't even know what that means. So, the education for me of going from having the initial conversations with my father about would this even entail, to the where I'm at now. There's been some uncertainty for me. There's been some really an education along the way. And what I think is going very well is that I'm feeling at this point finally a little less nervous and a lot more grounded, and really have been able to kind of get my footing in understanding, what is expected of me, what people want, and what people really want out of a candidate, and I'm feeling confident. So that's the first thing. I'm feeling more confident, and that's going well, and confident in myself, confident in why I'm doing this, which is for my family and for all of you, and so that's going well. The other thing is just like the community support and feedback. So I'm really getting, I'm feeling really engaged right now. We've had a couple of fundraisers that were really well attended, but it wasn't the fundraising part that was exciting for me. It was the fact that a bunch of different people showed up with different voices and different lenses and were there to really engage and talk with me. And I felt really supportive. And then thanks here. And and so that feels like things are going well. I feel like we're kind of picking up picking up speed on getting my name out there. And so more and more people are wanting to know more about me. So I think that that's going well. We've also seen, pretty good volunteer turnout. And of course, I would say that's also all my challenges, which is we need, we have a big, a ways to go in that area. And I do feel like there's growing momentum. So that is also going very well for me. As far as challenges, I think the biggest challenge is going to be reaching out to all the diverse amount of voters that we have across Thurston County. I spent that first, I actually feel like it was much more challenge. Felt a little like a deer out of water in the primary because, it was just the Yelm and East Lacey area. And the reality for me, and this is part of my story, is that I haven't lived out here very long. I mean, I have lived on the west side of Olympia, and I really am a West Sider. My kids are Capital High School graduates. And I own a house over there, and then we also own a house in Tumwater. And then my partner and I relocated out to this area just a little over a year ago, and we live in an apartment. I don't know if you guys know this, but we live in an apartment. We made a conscious choice to take the two houses that we are, that we have, and actually turn those into, I would say, shared housing models for people in recovery. We can afford to live in an expensive apartment. They cannot. And so for us, we decided that our values, we really wanted to let other people share our house, and so that's what we're doing. And so that was, reaching this kind of group was one thing, but then reaching out across the whole county now is what I have to do. So it's just one area. So now I've got to get to everybody, so I keep hearing people say, how are we going to knock? And when we say get to those areas, it's knocking on doors. I feel like it's the number one thing that we need to do. And Lisa Parsley, and what's going well with that would be that Jessica Bateman and Lisa Parsley and I all share a campaign manager and campaign staff, two of those who are here, Maggie and Crystal, so wave. And they have been doing just an amazing job of working on the field plan and organizing our voters and, getting all of these things done for us. But, and then we are sharing our campaign literature. So when we all get together, Lisa and Jessica and I, and any of you who show up, we can all get together and just really pound the pavement and talk about each other. And so that is, been great. That's, but we're going to have to do a lot more of that between now and, I only have 60 days and I had like 3 or 4 months to do just my little area. So that's a challenge. The other challenge is just really, having the opportunity to talk to people who I've not talked to before. So, and I'll say that, I'll put in here too, a plug around, the real value in if, Crystal knows a bunch of people that I do not know. Riley knows a bunch of people that I do not know. Madeline knows a bunch of people that I've never met. And so as a challenge, it's that we only have 50 days and, I only have so much time. I also have a full-time position. And so, and three, even though they're, and 3 kids and family that, takes some time for me too. But, how can I find, I want to work to make sure that I'm utilizing every bit of my time to reach as many people as possible. And so that's kind of another challenge of like, how do I have key meet and greets along the way? So like, I was really excited about this and you guys having me come to the OI picnic too. I'm just really appreciate that. That's the more time that I can get just to be in conversation and community with others is, really, really helpful. So that's the other one. And then the other challenge, I'm going to be real about this, considering my audience in this room right now, and just some things that Madeline had said before everyone else joined in, is that I have a formidable opponent. And you know, there's some Democratic endorsements behind my opponent, and so that is a challenge. And I have had some questions, and I actually it's been pretty awesome because I've kind of learned to respond to the questions of why does my independent opponent have most of the Lacey City Council endorsements. You know, and I, you know, the only thing that I know and that I can say to that is that, you know, he's a decent guy, and he has done he is well known in that local elected realm. They've worked with him before. They know how he shows up in a room, and they feel safe with that choice. And they feel, you know, and it can feel I think that the challenge is the overwhelming like anxiety that maybe some of the people in the local politics scene right now feel around new people on the scene. And so I have a challenge there. I have to really work to say, you know, I am to really talk about my skills and experiences and how I show up in the room, even though they don't know that that's also who I am and how I show up. And so I need to, you know, that's a challenge of just really getting folks to know more about my experience and have some, you know, for them to feel comfortable with the fact that I would be a really good addition to the team, the Thurston County Commission team. So, and I think that's it. Good news. And then primary, you know, like when we talk about what went well, I felt like we really did well in the primary, but I'm a data person. So I have, you know, I'm a junkie and downloaded all the data and really knew that if I could just inch into a couple percent into the red out here in my primary, that would tell me these things, that if that my opponent doesn't have as much support in the blue area as I thought. And so like that was one thing. And the other thing about those results that told me were that it's very, you know, that the results are going to be very based on almost the way that the precincts usually vote. And so out here it's generally 60% red, 40% blue. And in Thurston County, it's 60% blue and 40% red. And so when I look at that data, it helps me to understand that as long as I am reaching all of the Democratic voters and we are all doing what we need to do across the board, which is to vote down the line Democrats in order to support our new president and to do all of those things, then I should be, you know, feeling pretty confident in the results. But I want to make sure that, you know, so that did give me some confidence. All right. I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. I just one question I have is a follow-up question. You'd mentioned that in talking to voters, you're on the good news list. You said, as I talk to people, I am seeing that I would represent them well. I'm seeing some resonance between who I am and what I represent and kind of what voters are looking for. Can you give me some examples of things where voters have said things that made you feel like, yes, I'm the right person to represent you, and there was that connection? A couple of examples would be great.
Sure. Absolutely. I don't know. It's funny. I mean, you all will get to know me, and I know there are a few of you who have seen me many, you know, about 3 or 4 times now, and I react with emotion because I'm a person with lived experience in so many areas. It's just crazy. My story is very. My dad always says you have to write a book. Long before this even happened, you've got to write a book. You know, I have. I feel and identify with many people, whether they are blue or red or old or young. I have experienced a lot of things in my lifetime. So, with that being said, my voters, like when we talk about who I've knocked, so I've knocked on so many doors. I am loving door knocking. I mean, it is what keeps the only reason I'm running is because I want to represent the people, not the local electeds, not the businesses, but the people who are actually experiencing things on a daily basis and not getting help. or not knowing where to go. And so I knocked on a door. I'll give you a good example. I knocked on a trailer park. I went into a trailer park. It's just behind Costco. Uh, and um, and Maggie, were you with me? No, it wasn't. So, all right, it was my friend Sky, and we walked up and down, and most of the people didn't speak English, and they were on my canvassing list. I have a list. It says here these are the Democratic voters, and so I'm knocking on like 4 of the 12 or something. And I met a woman who is actually she wasn't on my list, and when I came back down the street, she was at my car because my car has my sign on it. And she was waiting to talk to me, and she is a woman who is about, I think she didn't tell me her age, but I'm going to guess she's in her early 60s, retirement age. She's lived in that trailer for like 15 years. She's on disability. She has a visible disability. She one of and probably an intellectual disability as well. And she was so excited to see me, and she was so excited to tell me about all the things. But one thing that she told me was that her floor in her trailer is not there. It has fallen in, and that she doesn't have any, she just assumes there's nothing anyone can do. And she also told me that her phone, that she gets Lifeline, the Lifeline phones that people can get at a certain age, and you can get them for very low income and low free, she hasn't been able to understand how to get it charged and how to get it to work. So, and she told me she has not had anybody come by or help her for 3 weeks. So I'm just, those kinds of conversations this is what goes into my head when I leave a conversation like that. Why do we not have people on caseloads or people connected to other people, peers, for the ones who are not involved in OI, for the ones who do not have a church family, for the ones that do not, who are not in a greater circle, who maybe are the most vulnerable? How are we making sure as a community that someone is checking in with them so that they don't have their floor falling in and they don't have access to a telephone, which is unsafe? And so those are the things and when I say, why am I the person for that? I'm the kind of person who's not going to let that go. I'm the kind of person who's gone back over there and actually helped her fix her phone, and connected her to Habitat for Humanity, who has a program that actually gives volunteers, they have volunteers that will maybe go and help her fix her floor. And so that resource, that's one of the things that I bring, which is, first of all, the passion that we can't I don't care if it's just one person makes a difference to me. The second thing is that I come with a lot of understanding around resource in Thurston County. Why? Because I've had to navigate them myself. And then I'm actually in recovery today and work with many people who either have come before me or after me who have had to navigate in this world too. So that's the reason I think I'm really, really good for this job and the other thing, another example was that I knocked on a door and I sat outside and had the best conversation. I get in trouble by Susan, she's on here, who says you can't sit at doors for 10, 15, 20 minutes and have conversations, Rachel. You need to hit all the doors. But I am sorry, I love stories. And I met an older couple, they're in their 80s. They've been in this area for 40 years. They've lived in that house for 40 years. He's from New York and she's from, they were great. And she's from Puerto Rico, and she has tried multiple times to get a street light. And she told me the different steps. She does not go on the internet. She does not, use, like, I've asked her a couple different things, but she was under the understanding they were in Lacey city limits. And when I looked it up, they're in Thurston County. They're in the urban growth, in the UGA. So the urban growth boundary area. And so it's not Lacey. So every time they tried to contact Lacey, they would say, that's not our deal. And so that, and when I leave that kind of situation and walk away from that, it tells me I'm hearing that we need in every area to be thinking critically about how we are creating, we have the resources and how do we actually make them accessible? How do people know where to go when they have a problem, and how do they actually get that problem solved? without feeling frustrated and giving up. She's tried 4 times in 40 years and she's never gotten anywhere. And she just, she said, you want my vote? Fix my light. I haven't fixed the light, but I will tell you it's on I did go and figure out how to go through. By the way, Lacey has a great little thing on their website that says, if you need a street light, click here, and you click on it. And then it goes right to their public works email box. And you can actually say, can you come check why I can't have a street light? You go to the Thurston County site and there's nothing like that. You don't even know who's in charge of that. I had to go call someone and ask about where this lives, where the responsibility lives, and it's public works. But they don't have an inbox for, maybe they do have an inbox for public works, but I haven't found it, not yet. So those are the things that I think about, like, why am I the best for this county, and why will I really make a difference? Is because when we see these little things that make an enormous difference in people's lives, they're just little things that could be fixed. And they just feel frustrated and stop trying because they don't know how to access it and they aren't aware that it's even there. And we need to work really hard in every program in Thurston County that we oversee in those offices to make sure that we are getting that information out to all people. And that's equity. When we talk about equity and diversity and inclusion, that's equity. It's not about, it's not about race. It's about young, old, rich, poor. It's about all of us. And how do we really get information into people's hands, no matter who you are or where you come from? It should just be easy to get to. And so that's me.
Thanks, Rachel. There is one question that's in the chat that I want to pose, and that is, are you canvassing in coordination with the Washington State Democratic Coordinating Committee or Coordinated Campaign?
Yeah.
Sorry, the WSDCC.
So Lisa, I will tell you that, and I don't know if I can put this into the right words because I let my campaign people figure this out, but all I remember hearing about, whether yes, you've seen me there, and that we are going to those, but the what we're called coordinated, what do we call it? The coordinated campaign headquarters. I've been there a few times, and then when we're all done and everyone goes out to go canvass, we go and canvass, but we aren't, they are not taking our materials. They're only taking their materials. And I can't remember why. There was a reason, it had something to do with, like, get out the vote. They were only doing it right before get out the vote, and they were only focused on certain things. And so we are choosing when we leave there not to go do their precincts, but to focus on the precincts we've identified. And then, and Lisa and Jessica, all three of us are, doing that. But we're happy to take their stuff with us. They just, and so happy to be out and working on, bringing the initiative flyers, and bringing Maryland's flyers, and bringing Chris Reichdel's flyers. And we have packets that our staff is making for us that we'll get out. Does that answer? Yeah.
Let's see. I don't want to talk out of turn, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, look, thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. So I just want to make sure I understand. So, yeah, because I know I saw you down at I think it was like a launch thing at the WSDCC, and it's helpful to know how this is operating so that we can, our modest contribution to helping candidates get elected, that we're able to at least have clarity about, what's going on where. So does that mean, Rachel, if people want to be canvassing for you, should they be then not thinking that if they go to the WSDCC on a Saturday, that's going to happen, but instead they need to connect with Rob Richards or Crystal? Is that
Yes.
right? Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so we need to just want to be aware of that. I know that Sharon is on the call, and she and I are on and Madeline are on the call to action team, and we have this candidate support calendar. but just that clarity is helpful. The other thing I want to say is that our state, we have a team called the Election State Action Team, and this is the team that Jeff is has part of, and signed up to be liaison for your campaign, along with who? Jeff, please remind me. I'm so sorry. Do you have a co-liaison?
I do. It's Krog. Yeah.
Krog, of course. Krog, my apologies. I can't keep track of it all. But at any rate, one of the things that happened this week is that we talked about this with our team, and we've come up with what we're calling a wrapper. That's with a W. And basically, if I was going to just say in 4 words what it is, it's like who to vote for. And this is because there's enough of us in Olympia Indivisible. We know that sometimes people just don't vote because they don't have time, or they feel they don't have time. The voter pamphlet is going to be huge, because it is huge. And in 2024, the number of candidates. And so what we've done is we've put together, all of our endorsed candidates are here, including you. And there's like a little one-liner about, just your priorities. I know that it's so telescopic. It's very unsatisfying to write it, and it might be just as unsatisfying to read it. But at least there's your name, and you're there along with all of our endorsed candidates, which are on the back. That's kind of like the short skinny. And I wanted to let you know that both Maddie and Beth Dolio, who is in charge of the No on 2117, have said that if we show up, if OI volunteers show up to do canvassing, we can bring this with us. And what we do with this is that we're going to use this, like, let's just say these are pieces of lit. This is the wrapper. That's why we're calling it that. So that's what we're going to be leaving. And as you know, when you go canvassing, most of the time people aren't home and you end up leaving lit. I just wanted to let you know that, just to put that, this is maybe more like a Crystal thing or a Rob thing, but I wanted to let you know that we've been given that authorization to carry this with us, to bring it with us. And we've got 700 copies of this right now, and I'm going to produce as many as we need. It's just put that in the back of your mind somewhere about, like, this is maybe a communications tool to add to your toolkit. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And maybe, one of the things we've thought about, Lisa, I guess I've thought about it and suggested it, but I don't think we've done much more than that, is that there's no problem if we go out with the coordinated campaign folks, then we can take our lit, and drop it with their lit. And so, like, if you guys are wanting to go, I've been thinking about this too. Like, OI has such a great big spread, but I was at the picnic, and you've got people who are gonna, some people are gonna go to Michigan, and some people are going to, everyone's time is split between Kamala, Maria, I get that. And so, and that's why I really love this thing where Lisa, I've just felt really supported by Lisa and Jessica, and Beth, all of them have really wrapped me up and said, well, if you're going to one neighborhood and I'm going to another, have some of my lit on hand, have some of our lit so we can add to you can have their packet and add our three, to your packet and go drop, and then let us know. So then we can mark that off of our precinct list and know that it was already covered. and I think that would be very helpful. So
Yeah, I don't know how Olympia, I don't know how Jeff and Krog are going to be coordinating on all of that about the literature. I will also just mention that um, we're going to be doing a kind of a call to all of our members to go out on September 21st, which is not this Saturday, but the following, um, with WSDCC.
Okay.
And we're going to have this wrapper. We're going to be whatever neighborhoods, whatever precincts, whatever turf we're cut, we'll be doing that. That will be part of the list. I want you to know that, because if we show up and you have lit and they don't have that lit, if Crystal, you can, if somebody from the campaign wants to get in touch, we can make sure that we have that on hand. I just don't know, like, I don't know exactly how all this magic happens, but I just want to let you know that we're going to try to get some folks out. I don't know how many people will get out, but hopefully we'll be able to turn some folks out, and hopefully we'll be able to do add-on value for your campaign.
sure, that would be great. And I do know we have a stack of some lit there. But Crystal, if you could write, I think that's the case, that we all were able to bring our lit and put it there. And so we can beef that up.
Okay.
So that there's enough that people feel like they could take a stack instead of, we can definitely do that. I think that'd be great. And I know that the campaign staff, or the coordinated state staff that are there, they are willing, they know Rob, and they're working with, Rob, they text each other. And so I'm sure, they could say, here's the precincts that we're doing today. And I'll bet you we'll be, I know we're doing door knocking that day. It's supposed to be from 10 to 2.
Yeah.
And so, that will be, I'm happy to do that. So,
Yeah, I just
yeah,
hope that what we can do is to coordinate somehow so that when we're going out, we're not doing the same neighborhoods that you just did, which happens.
right,
Uh,
right.
so yeah, so the more that I guess Rob is in communication with Maddie, the better off that'll be, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. That I think one of our goals in this is to sort through what are the best ways that we can support Rachel's campaign. And I would add that that the campaign itself, Crystal in particular, are putting out sign up dates and a canvassing schedule that we will have access to. So for those dates and times and places that Rachel's canvassing outside of the WSDCC, I have a hard time saying that, we'll have access to that and be able to sign up for those as well. So we'll know when they're happening and where. Yeah. I have a couple more questions, Kiss.
It looks like Maggie has her hand up too. I don't know if she just had something to pop in there.
Yeah, go ahead real quick.
I just wanted to double check. Did you say the 20th or the 21st for that lit drop?
So whatever the Saturday is. 21st.
21st. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the other questions, we've got time for a couple more questions. This is another one that came earlier. Just in your conversations with voters, Rachel, can you give an example, or is there an area where you've changed? Or, I mean, nobody wants to be accused of flip-flopping. I understand that. But have you found like people have educated you on something and maybe your perspective has changed or evolved as a result of all these conversations with voters? Anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I like this conversation. And I would have to say my immediate response, like when you sent me this, I was like, I hope so. I mean, like that, right? I mean, we're always evolving. Like if I've already decided I know everything, then I'm really in trouble. And so I have learned, I don't know, I was trying to think of like a specific example of where I've really changed. I think I thought I knew a lot about land use. I'll tell you that. And I have learned that I knew nothing. And that I have really, like Rita Robinson, there's been a couple people I just love this, like that they've taken the time to be in community with me and offered to have conversations with me to help me learn. And so, and so that's been like kind of one of my favorite parts along the way is, I have a conversation at an event and I realize, wow, maybe my thinking, what I thought was something is not quite right. And so what I have, with Rita, I didn't really understand land swaps. And so I had to go home and research it. That's step one. Like, that's one of the things that you can guarantee to know about me, is that if there's something I don't know, I'm going to find out. I'm one of those people. I was thinking about this picture behind me that's in, Claude Monet's actual gardens. And then we left there and we're driving down the road, and I will ask a million questions. I wonder why that church is there. I wonder and I will want to know the answer, and I will find the answer. And so with the Rita thing, the land swaps, I went and read a bunch of stuff, but I still don't quite understand all of it. So we're going to have a meeting. She's bringing all her friends. She told me that her friends don't believe I know enough about land swaps. And I said, well, then teach me, and so we're going to have a conversation at Wagner's next week, and just be in community together so I can learn. So that's an example, of the things I'm learning about. I mean, the other thing that, I am a person who knows a lot of both sides of things, right? I'm 50, I'm almost 50. I graduated from Shelton High School. Even though my dad was over here in Olympia, I came here at 19, so I've been here pretty much my whole adult life. But my friends in Shelton High School are all construction trades. My best friend owns an electrician. He's an electrician. I ran into somebody yesterday at Thurston County Chamber that, they're also builders. My friend is like on the board of Master Builders, and he is somebody that is definitely right. I mean, they are right-winged, and they think, I don't have to tell you what they think, but other than, they definitely think differently than I do. And most of us on this call do. And I value those conversations. And I really think that, when we talk about, the impact fees and how much it's costing people to build on a piece of property, but I've kind of learned, like, it's a difficult issue, and it's a wicked issue. And we really need to look really closely at how can we help both sides, right? And so that's one of the areas where I've thought, well, impact fees are great. And until I really looked into it and thought, oh my gosh, they're crippling these kind of medium-sized businesses. And so you need them, and we need money. And I care more about getting people money. I'll be real that my values align with more money for us. We need taxes. We need impact fees, because I want to help people change their lives. And so I lean towards that. But I also think that there are ways that we could think about offsetting, and think about federal grants, and think about how do we support, to balance out those impact fees. So I definitely have learned, and been listening, and really trying to critically think about what I'm hearing, and in order to bring that lens to how can we be creative and solve these problems for Thurston County.
Another question that was submitted ahead of time is reads like this. I'll just read it. Based on what you've heard from, I'll read this other one. Have you read all the strategic plans for the jurisdictions in Thurston County? And do they have anything in common?
Well, they're all trying to be strategic. I will tell you that. So, here's the list, right? Thurston County has its own strategic plan, hasn't been updated in like 3 years, and they're working on it right now. I don't see that actively happening in the commissioners' meetings, but, I think they're trying to, waiting for the comprehensive plan to be updated. The comprehensive plan, the 2045 plan, the Regional Housing Council has a plan. There's a plan for homelessness. There's an opioid use plan. There's a sustainable Thurston plan. There's a economic plan. You name it. There's plans. What I do not, here's what's not, what's in common is that there's no overarching plan that ties all. And then look, there's also a Lacey City plan, Olympia City plan, and a Tumwater City plan. I've read them all. I have looked at all of them, and all I can say is I don't understand how we have not stopped. And I think we have attempted, because that's why we have all these regional councils. We have lots of regional councils to try to think about specific issues. But what I do not see is I'm going to say that we should think not in regional, but we should be talking about a county, like our community plan. Like, what is our community? Which includes, and it could even include just outside Mason Thurston, or Mason Lewis, and why are we? Because and I will say that the themes that come up, of course, are energy, environmental projections, and land use. Like, those are the themes, and pretty much they tie together. And they really do. And they're also in Lacey City. Each of those city plans, it's about homelessness, housing, land use, and environment. And we continue to talk about that. What's not there? Behavioral health. Okay, and that impacts me. And that's how I got. Guess what? My advisory committee that I'm on for Thurston County and I chair just passed its first strategic plan, and we present it to the council, to the commissioners. I think it's next week. First, we have to get them to agree to the bylaws, and then the week after that, we're going to come back and say thanks for agreeing to the bylaws, because now we're bringing you a strategic plan. Because we have opioid money coming. We have everybody has these different pots of money. They come to public health, they go to the regional behavioral health, they go to the hospital. But how can we do any of those things? How can I want to make sure that the kid that I saw on the corner on the night of the debate, I walked by and he said, "Oh, hi, Rachel," who was one of my son Cooper's really good friend. He vacationed with us. He's homeless and he's on the street. And he, and it is, how do we make sure that those basic needs are met for all community members before we think about whether or not, if people are not alive, it doesn't matter about the future. That's kind of the lens I'm bringing to this. And so, but for the question alone, I would say that, the main themes are really around, how do we grow? And how do we do that thoughtfully? And how do we put thinking into growth? And we have to think about our water. We have to think about all of these different pieces. And I just don't know how. I really hope we can really be thinking about how do we look at all of those plans and make a master plan that says, here's a way that we're all going to work together to get this done, so we're not duplicating efforts all across our county, which is what I'm seeing. So yeah. And video. Yeah, it's here. I was gonna say, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was my question. And I just it was in response to the video that you did on strategic planning. And that you just answered my question brilliantly. But it is really distressing to me that one of the things that community members will tell you over and over again that they're upset about is the mental health and drug issues in the community. And if that's not part of everybody's individual plan, never mind, there's a coordinated strategic plan. I mean, we're not going to get anywhere on it. So that's one of the things that I really value about imagining you on the council, just bringing that perspective and making people be real about it and get it in their damn plan,
Right. Absolutely. And I will put a plug in for what she's talking about, which is that when we talk about call to action, it would be great. Like we did decide that one of the ways that my campaign is going to try to reach the diverse crowd is to do it through media. I guess that is part of me having a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old who's a digital media marketing person, with her own business. And I know that my 20 and 22-year-old and my 30-year-old don't know about anything if it isn't on TikTok or on Instagram, And so we decided to put some money into making a presence. And so there's a couple really cool reels. One of them stars my father. And it's at McLean Creek, and we talk about how the things we see at McLean Creek, which is one of our favorite places in the universe, relates to our campaign and what we want to do here. And if you, so I have I have a Facebook account that you can find that on, which is probably the easiest for most of us here. I do not understand Instagram either, so I am like, but I can navigate it, and it's the place where all of this lives. So there's an Instagram account, there's a a Facebook account. I don't think we don't have a Twitter account. But I would, and if you see one of those and you share it on your own, that's how we're going to grow this, right? You see it and then you share it. And then all of a sudden, all of the people in your network now know about me, and you can say to them, hey, check out this candidate. You should share this with your network, and you should share this with your network. And that's how we gain, we reach into those crevices of where we can't always get to. Yeah. And they are fun. They are really fun. One of them's about, I do it down at the superhero wall at Old School, man. And that was my favorite. And it was, and you also get to see the fun side of me. So that's good.
All right. Thank you. According to my list, we have gone through all the questions that we received in advance, and I think we've answered the ones that are that have come into the chat during the time we've had together. We would like to give you a couple minutes, Rachel, to tell us anything that you want to tell us or wish we had asked about, or any final comments you have. And then we'll spend a little bit of time at the end just kind of recapping some of the ways that we can best support you. But you've got some time to give us a wrap up, if you would, please.
The only things, there's a lot to know about me. So it's impossible. The more times we can be near each other and be in community together, the more you're going to, I could unravel pieces of my story one by one, and each of those pieces show the credibility that I bring, and so it's a lot. That's been the biggest struggle for me, is synthesizing down my experience and learning how, when, and who, and how to talk about it. But I would say that, the last thing that, I don't know. I feel like, we've covered most everything. The one part that I will say is I am, currently leading, I currently lead this initiative at King County for workforce, for behavioral health workforce. So, the problem is that we can build all of these. We are building crisis care centers, and that's a big part of my plan, right? Is regional response. Like in King County, if you notice that King County, for the first time, you can read lots of different things, but King County is the first county in Washington state to ever have a reduction in the deaths in opioid this year. That just came out. We just had that happen, where we reduced the deaths this year because of the incredible efforts, because they passed a levy that gave them $486 million dedicated to behavioral health. And so I'm up there leading one portion of that levy. I have a bucket and because we cannot treat anyone if we do not have people to work in that field. We do not convince my 20-year-olds and my 22-year-olds that being a treatment counselor or a mental health provider or a behavioral health tech, or, we have to have people, who are working in not just behavioral health, I'll say it there too, health fields. It's a dying breed, and we need to provide the resources that they need so that they are not going into debt to work in a field where they're going to be overworked and underpaid. And so that's what I'm working on right now. And so I encourage you to kind of all pay attention to what's going on with the crisis care centers in King County. And if you're interested in that, put your email, I'll get you on the newsletter, and you can see, you just know that anytime you see workforce, that's me. But we are working, they are working on something that is different and new, and that is going to transform. It's not different and new in the other states and the other places. It's just new to us in Washington state. And I am really excited about that. And I want to, I eventually want to see that happening for us here, is that someone needs a place to go when they're in crisis. They need someone to respond. They need somewhere to call. They need to have access and awareness of all resources. And we need to get that done for us here. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks. I see a hand up. I've got just a minute. Lisa, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say, one of the things I find so exciting about you as a candidate is that you have such focus on what the individual citizens of our county are experiencing, and particularly our most vulnerable citizens. And your level, your depth of care is really deep. And what you've pointed out is that there's sometimes there's a failure of communication, or that there just isn't the infrastructure somehow or other. Something as simple as, I would totally be going over to that woman who needed some help, and I would be there and I would be saying, you tell me what the problem is, and I'll go, I'll be your ombudsman. I'll do that. I would want to do that. But the other piece of that, and this is something that I feel like you're bringing to this race, and I would encourage you to talk about, is that you're someone, as you say, you're a data cruncher, you are an analyst, you are someone who likes to look at systems for efficiency.
Mhm.
And so it's that symbiosis between seeing the individual and what they are experiencing, where there's no infrastructure, and understanding that it's not that the infrastructure doesn't exist, it's just that maybe it's not operating efficiently across the county, and that it's too sort of it's too how could I say it, broken into pieces. It's just not there's lack of communication. There's it could be so much more. We could be doing so much more, even with the resources that we have, if we were able to have someone. And I think you might, it sounds like you're that someone. This is your jam. You love to do this kind of thing. This is what you want to do. You want to crunch the data, look at the structures, come up with the maximum efficiency, and that is going to reach out to the individual. And I just want to encourage you to make that part of, if it's not already the center of your messaging, probably is. So I don't know how useful this is, but I just want to say that I think that that's a really strong suit that you bring.
Nice. Thank you, Lisa. And I wrote that down because I am still working on messaging. And I do appreciate that. And I do want to, just like when you were saying that, I also want to mention that, when I talk about I am always thinking about that the most vulnerable, right? But I also am thinking about, my own family. Like, we're middle income. Like, I'm actually like, at this point, I make good money, people. Like, this is I have done well for myself, and I wish I didn't have as much wreckage in my 30s. So I had a lot of debt to take care of. And so I'm consistently, and 3 children that I raised alone. So, who are, now, but I will say that I also own a small business, and I think about, not just us, but also how do we thrive without having to pay all of our money to, taxes, right? But I'll pay all mine. I give you 50% of mine. I give you every dollar.
Yeah, no, I love
I'm living in an apartment. I gave up my house so I could live in an
right.
apartment.
No, it's just
yeah.
that I have to say, I didn't know that about you, and that just absolutely just gets right in.
So,
But
so I
appreciate that, and I think it is important for you to keep that balance of saying that you want to raise everyone, you want to uplift everyone, that the vulnerable are the ones perhaps who need the most help, but the middle class also needs help, because in many cases they are just sort of hanging on by their toenails, and that you're there for everyone. You're there for everyone. I just love that. Anyway, I'll just pipe down. I just wanted to say that.
Well, we are at the end. I just want to again thank Rachel for spending time with us, and thank all of you who are participants in this. I think we've got some things we can do. We can look at her webpage, which I know is up. We'll be getting out canvassing schedules that you can sign up for. There is the work that's happening with the wrapper, so as we can promote Rachel's campaign as we go around and do other things. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this, and go Rachel.
Thanks, you
there-
guys. Thanks for all your
Yeah.
support. I really have felt the most supported by you all. And I also, I am one of you all. Like I feel the most connected to this group. So after of all the groups. And so I just want to say thank you. It's from my own mental health and my own courage and confidence and all of those things, this group has been key. And so I appreciate the support.